Tell me about that myth of the 10,000 hour rule, because everybody since Malcolm Gladwell's book holds that as a truth. Why is it a myth?
Well, it's a cute guide, I suppose, but 10,000 hours is an arbitrary number that Malcolm Gladwell selected when he wrote the book. And he's a super smart guy, and he obviously had a good reason for doing it. But I think the reason for doing it was like it's catchy, right? Like it's a sticky idea, and it makes sense to people. It's like, oh, if I just put in enough time, I'll eventually become an expert. But there's so many layers to that discussion. The first and probably most important layer is Gladwell based that statement on the work of Anders Ericsson, who's this really
Yes.
all-time famous psychologist who studied the development of expertise. And nowhere, anywhere does he mention 10,000 hours. And in fact, in his sort of like, not rebuttal, but his sort of commentary on Gladwell's work, he says, like, actually, we find experts at 1,500 hours and 2,500 hours and 7,037 hours, so there is
Yeah.
no one number. It's good to have goals, right? So a goal to practice more might be useful, but aiming for 10,000 hours and assuming that you're not an expert before then is probably not the solution. And expertise is really, it's complicated, right? So, and it's not always linear in the way that it's developed. And so just thinking again that more is going to get you to the place that you want to be is really not the solution. And we can all kind of think of people in our lives who put a ton of time into something and never quite got to where they wanted to be. It doesn't mean that they didn't work hard, but hard work alone is not going to get you to the peak of whatever it is that you want to achieve. You're going to need coaching. You're going to need to experiment. You're going to need to fail. You're going to need to figure out how to leverage tools outside of your immediate sphere to figure out what else you can borrow to make something unique and innovative and contribute and move yourself forward in a real way.
I've gone down the Erickson rabbit hole on the 10,000 hours myself. And the 10,000 hours is true as a story. It's not literally true, though. I find is a great framework to bring to Gladwell's work because his gift is taking complicated concepts and turning it into a simple story. And that's what makes him so easy to read. And that's why I think a lot of people connect with his work. That's why I connect with his work. I think
Yeah.
it's an incredible gift that he has for that. But it's good to remember that it's like any story, it's not all literally true.